Welcome to the Choose to Be podcast. Thank you all for joining our conversation today. How are you? Hopefully, you are starting to enjoy some spring. Alana, you're in the Utah mess. Are you guys finally getting some spring?
Yes, we had 70s last week, but when I went for my walk this morning, it was 28 degrees.
Ah, gee.
So we're it's not snowing, but it's still pretty chilly.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm not going to rub it in, but yes, I am. Texas is amazing right now. Just makes me feel better. So hopefully each of you, wherever you're at least see those wildflowers start popping up wherever you are. Those are my favorite. I love all the state's wildflowers that start coming up this time. All right. Today we are talking. I don't think this is going to be a terribly long episode. It is something that comes up a lot for betrayed partners where they start to become anxious, scared, all I was trying to think of all the words like anxious and scared and fearful and hyper vigilant and all the things when they have to leave their partner home alone or their partner is maybe now traveling again for work. And I just want to first validate how that can be really scary. I know there's also situations, Alana, we were talking about this earlier, where after a disclosure or a discovery, perhaps all of that has shut down. Maybe you guys have been together, you haven't let him out of your sight, or he hasn't maybe wanted to go out of your sight, whatever the situation is, but you've been together for a while. And now we're going to be apart for a certain time for whatever reason. Of of course, right?
For most of my partners, the acting out behavior was done in secret and was done when it was convenient. And usually it was more convenient to do it in secrecy when they were gone. And they know this. They've been told whenever you went out of town or when you
Yeah.
were at work or when you were fill in the blank, that's when I acted out. So then their brain so naturally equates to I leave, he acts out. And that neural pathway is pretty strong because that's been reinforced through these patterns. And you have actual proof that this is what happened. And so you're not crazy for feeling this way. You're not crazy for having these fears of if I leave, he might struggle or he will be challenged or he will be tempted or he will fully binge all of those fears because they've happened in the past. And our brain, anytime we have future things come up, our brain goes back into the file box of the past and it goes off of past history to know how to respond with the future. So, yeah, it totally makes sense why this is really uncomfortable and why maybe we avoid it at all cost.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where I think the hard part of the conversation is going to come in and leave it to me to bring it up. But the reality is it has become a false sense of security. Like I totally remember thinking and believing that somehow my presence truly did have could control or even cure, correct, whatever the word you want to use, his behaviors. And it seems like it's true because of what you're saying there, right? Like when I am, he doesn't. Yeah, it's true. But it's a false sense of control. It's a false security. And I think that's really hard to take in sometimes, depending on where you're at in your journey, because that's one of the things that we're all struggling with is that control. And getting back into your own control bubble is really hard, but it applies here too.
100%. And I just want to have empathy for those of you who hear that it's a false sense of control.
I know my face is cringing.
Yeah, because like my bodyguard is wants to be like, F you, Amy. Like, no, it's helping. It works. I don't have to be in pain. I don't have to have a miserable trip because I'm not worried about him the whole time. So it's easier for me to just stay and he's not acting out. So it works. But the reality is you're exactly right. You're exactly right. It is a false sense of control and or a false sense of security and safety. And what's interesting because my brain thinks about for the partner, because I have some partners who are like, don't leave me. Don't go away. I might act out. I might be tempted. But you always being there also prevents them from being able to do the work to know how to be alone and to know how to face those triggers and to work through it and to rely on a support network not just you,
Yeah.
because you can't just be their savior. You can't be their everything. And
No.
that weight that's upon you to do that has a really negative consequence on you, on them, and on the relationship.
It's just not sustainable. And so, if you are utilizing this, you have been doing this right now, no shame, no judgment, right? It works, air quoting, right? Works for a time. And just like in anything that we talk about in the recovery world, tools or whatever, I think that there's a time for all of it. And so I get it why for a time this does feel safer, but it's not sustainable. And I do believe that everyone listening is really trying to figure out what healthy is and lean into that. And that is going to come with some hard emotions because it means you focus on you and be responsible for you only. And
Which is
it's
a scary, scary thought.
very scary. Yeah.
What keeps coming to mind is the 3 C's. You didn't cause it,
Yep.
you cannot control it, and you can't cure it. And you know what? Like, I want all of those to not be true. I think about me with my children. I think about me with my spouse, me with my friends. Like, I would love to have more power and control. I think about when I really started learning about addiction, I learned everything I could get my hands on. I was like, gimme, 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 gimme. I have to learn. And my husband was just still in a place of trying to survive. And he was working with this therapist at the speed he could go. But I had a knowledge base that was way bigger than his because I was pulling in all of this information. So then I wanted to go help him see and I wanted to teach him and I wanted to cure him. And really, I wanted to cure me. I wanted to cure both of us. I wanted to cure it all. And I didn't want to control, but I did. And I hate the word control because it's a triggering word because we've used that for women in like such a negative light. I didn't want to control him, but I wanted to control the situation and make it less worse. I wanted to make things not so scary and extreme. So I did, like, I desperately wanted to feel like some sense of control in my own life. And he was so out of control that I wanted to control him because he was making my life out of control. I think that this is one of those areas of really, and you so beautifully, like going back into your own control bubble. I didn't cause it. I cannot control it and I can't cure it. And if I try to set up scenarios where perfectly he will act out, we actually might be hindering progress for both of us.
Yeah. I get that can be hard to wrap your head around depending on where you're at in your journey, but it really is so crucial for you to like, okay, here's what I want to offer because I know I would be hearing that and I would be like, okay. And then all these emotions would come up for me to just even imagining, even just like in my head, imagining me pushing back, pushing his stuff over there and me staying over here in my side and only controlling what I can control. And then all this emotion will come up. And so, what I want to just remind everybody right here is that emotion is information. It is not good, bad, right, or wrong. This is where you step into self care, which is being responsible for all of those beautiful emotions, getting curious about those emotions, going to your professional or support group to help process those emotions. I think anytime we're learning something new, it's going to come with a negative emotion, but negative doesn't mean bad or wrong.
Yes. And you know what's coming to mind as you're talking is all of those feelings that they come up. I think it would be really, really good for you to make a plan of how you are going to tackle those emotions. So if we have this upcoming trip or this upcoming overnighter or upcoming time we're not going to be together,
Mhm.
what's your plan? Like, let's think preemptively. What is my plan? Knowing I'm probably going to have hard feelings. How am I going to set myself up for the most amount of success I can have? Maybe I'm going to take some time to process. I'm going to bring my journal. I'm going to have my sponsor on speed dial. I'm going to reach out to my group. And for the partner who has betrayed, absolutely have a safety plan in place that creates safety for you, but in turn can also create safety for your partner that's working through their betrayal. So that safety plan, same thing. Who are you going to reach out to? How are you going to have healthy behaviors that are going to fill your time and space? How is your time going to be broken up? Who are your safe people, and have multiple people you can reach out to, not just one, because if they're not available, who's your list of support people you can call? Who are you going to be accountable to before, during, and after beyond your partner? And so doing this work, I think for both sides, moving into these triggering situations
Mhm.
can be really beautiful work that will help you keep progressing on the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a client who was in this situation and they were in a place where it was safe to make a request. And this was one of her requests or boundary, but she made the request that, can you please put a safety plan together for me? And I encouraged her to even make the in that request, let him know what specifically your concerns are around. And he can formulate his safety plan around those concerns. So it's like, okay, but at night, after all the kids are in bed, what are you doing with your phone? Where is your phone going to be? This is the relational work, right? And providing safety is, here's what I will be doing with my phone, and really being detailed around that. So, this is something, again, I want to specify, if you are in that place where it is safe to make a request, you absolutely can. If not, and it needs to be a little bit more of a hard boundary, if you act out while I am gone, then right? That's an option too. Again, seek someone professional to help you walk through that for your particular situation. But I love how you're urging both to do this. You can receive one from your partner and make one for you as well. And that's really all you can do. This is why I said it's probably going to be a short episode. Like, I know that, wait, what? No, don't be what I really want to hear.
Give me more.
I don't want it to just be, you can't control it. But I promise, I promise, I promise. I was doing another podcast with Kimberly Day, and she'd asked me the question. She says, what are the two shifts for you that really propelled you into that moving forward direction? And I said, agency and responsibility. When I started taking responsibility for my emotion, it put me in my, what I call agent power mode. It put me in power to choose. And that shift, not only in my brain, I felt it in my body. And it is very real. I've had a handful of experiences where I literally have felt the physiological shift in my body when I let go of his emotions and worrying about controlling or monitoring and taking that responsibility for my thoughts and feelings, all of them, and my actions, and really stepping into that empowerment. It takes practice. It's not an arrival. I have to practice every day to choose to be an agent over my life. And I know it's possible. Be patient with yourself along the way, but there is no other way.
Yeah. I love that. I just want to be quiet and just let that sit there, and maybe rewind it and go back and listen to the last 60 seconds of what Amy just said. And I 100%, I need to stop saying 100% agree, but I 100% agree. I really agree. I just validate everything you're saying, and I have had similar experiences. So I'm sorry we don't have something more than that, because what we're talking about is all encompassing. And it is hard to step into this and to face this and to lean into that discomfort. And so have lots of grace with yourself and lots of self compassion, and keep going in this hard work. And if you need a group to support you in the process while you're doing this, come hang out with Amy and I in our groups. Also, Luke has Choose 90 group that is helping people gain sobriety, self mastery, really to learn essential foundational tools. And then he has this 180 group that's working on men's emotional health and doing that deeper emotional work. So if you are a man listening to this who is in need of that work, go to chooserecoveryservices.com and get in one of Luke's groups. There's a couple other guys doing the groups too. I'm married to Luke, and he's the one who's just starting the new 90 group. I'm totally biased. I'll just admit that. Go to his group. That 180 groups, there's multiple men doing it, and they're all fabulous.
Yeah.
But go check those out because that is where you'll learn some of these skills on how to be alone and how to face the feelings. And same thing with our groups. We'll help you figure out how to be alone and how to face those feelings. And I'll just tell you, it is so much easier not doing it alone. So, podcasts are great, but don't do the journey all by yourself. So, as always, thanks for hanging out with Amie and I. And we look forward to seeing you next week.